I'd like to tell you about the strangest secret in the world. Some years ago, the late Nobel Prize-winning Dr. Albert Schweitzer was being interviewed in London. The reporter asked, "Doctor, what's wrong with men today?" The great doctor was silent for a moment, and then he said, "Men simply don't think." And it's about this that I want to talk with you today. We live today in a golden age that it is an era that man has looked for, dreamed of, and worked towards for thousands of years. But since it's here, we pretty well take it for granted. We in America are particularly fortunate to live in the richest land that's ever existed on the face of the earth, a land of abundant opportunity for everyone. But do you know what happens? Let's take 100 men that start out even at the age of 25. Do you have any idea what will happen to those men by the time they're 65? These 100 men who all start out even at age 25 believe they're going to be successful. If you ask any one of these men if he wanted to be a success, he'd tell you that he did. And you would notice he was eager towards life. There was a certain sparkle in his eyes and a erectness to his carriage, and life seemed like a pretty interesting adventure to him. But by the time they're 65, 1 will be rich, 4 will be financially independent, 5 will still be working, 54 will be broke. Now think for a moment. Out of 100, only 5 makes the grade. Why do so many fail? What has happened to the sparkle that was there when they were 25? What's become of the dreams, the hopes, the plans, and why is there such a large disparity between what these men intended to do and what they actually accomplished? When we say about 5% achieve success, we have to define success. And here's the best definition I've ever been able to find. Success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. If a man is working towards a predetermined goals and knows where he's going, that man is a success. If he's not doing that, he's a failure. It's as simple. Success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Rollo May, the distinguished psychiatrist, wrote a wonderful book called Man's Search for Himself. In this book, he says the opposite of courage in our society is not cowardice, it's conformity. And there you have the trouble today. It's conformity. People acting like everyone else without knowing why, without knowing where they're going. Now think of it. In America right now, there are over 40 million people 65 years of age or over, and most of them are broke. They're dependent on someone else for life's necessities. Now we learn to read by the time we're 7. We learn to make a living by the time we're 25. Usually by that time we're not only making a living, we're supporting a family. And yet by the time we're 65, we haven't learned to become financially independent in the richest land that has ever been known. Why? We conform. The trouble is we're acting like the wrong percentage group, the 95% who don't succeed. Now, why do these people conform? Well, they don't know really. These people believe that their lives are shaped by circumstance, by things that happen to them, by exterior forces. They're outer directed people. A survey was made one time that covered a lot of men, working men, and these men were asked, why do you work? Why do you get up in the morning? 19 out of 20 had no idea. If you asked them, they would say everyone else goes to work in the morning, and that's the reason they do it, because everyone else is doing it. Now let's get back to our definition of success. Who succeeds? The only person who succeeds is a person who is progressively realizing a worthy ideal. It's a person that says, I'm going to become this, and then begins to work towards that goal. I'll tell you who the successful people are. The success is a school teacher who is teaching school because that's what he or she wants to do. The success is the wife and mother because she wanted to become a wife and mother and is doing a good job of it. The success is the man who runs a corner gas station because that's what he wanted to do. The success is a successful salesman who wants to become a top-notch salesman and grow and build in his organization. A success is anyone who is doing deliberately a predetermined job because that's what he decided to do deliberately. But only 1 out of 20 does that. That's why today there really isn't any competition unless we make it for ourselves. Instead of competing, all we have to do is create. You know, for 20 years I looked for the key which would determine what would happen to a human being. Was there a key? I wanted to know which would make the future a promise that we could foretell to a large extent. Was there a key that would guarantee a person becoming successful if he only knew about it and knew how to use it? Well, there is such a key, and I found it. Have you ever wondered why so many men work so hard and honestly without ever achieving anything in particular, and others don't seem to work hard and yet get everything? They have a magic touch. You've heard them say about someone, everything he touches turns to gold. Have you ever noticed that a man that becomes successful tends to continue to become successful? And on the other hand, have you noticed how a man who's a failure tends to continue to fail? Well, it's because of goals. Some of us have them, some don't. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going. It's that simple. Now think of a ship leaving a harbor and think of it with a complete voyage mapped out and planned. The captain and the crew know exactly where it's going and how long it'll take. It has a definite goal. Now 9,999 times out of 10,000 it will get to where it started out to get. Now let's take another ship, just like the first, only let's not put a crew on it or a captain at the helm. Let's give it no aiming point, no goal, no destination. Let's just start the engines and let it go. I think you'll agree with me, if it gets out of the harbor at all, it will either sink or wind up on some deserted beach, a derelict. It can't go anyplace because it has no destination and no guidance. It's the same thing with the human being. Take the salesman for an example. There is no other person in the world today with the future of a good salesman. Selling is the world's highest paid profession if we're good at it and if we know where we're going. Every company needs top-notch salespeople and they reward those men. The sky's the limit for them. But how many can you find? Someone once said the human race is fixed, not to prevent the strong from winning, but to prevent the weak from losing. The American economy today can be likened to a convoy in time of war. The entire is slowed down to protect its weakest link, just as a convoy had to go at a speed that would permit its slowest vessel to remain in formation. That's why it's so easy to make a living today. It takes no particular brains or talent to make a living and support a family today. So we have a plateau of so-called security, if that's what a person is looking for. But we do have to decide how high above this plateau we want to aim for. Now let's get back to the strangest secret in the world, the story I wanted to tell you today. Why do men with goals succeed in life and men without them fail? Well, let me tell you something which, if you really understand it, will alter your life immediately. If you understand completely what I'm going to tell you, from this moment on, your life will never be the same again. You will suddenly find that good luck just seems to be attracted to you. The things you want just seem to fall in line. And from now on, you won't have the problems, the worry, the gnawing anxiety that perhaps you have experienced before. Doubt, fear, they'll be things of the past. Here is the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about. Throughout all history, the great wise men and teachers, philosophers and prophets have disagreed on one another on many different things. It is only on this one point that they are in complete and unanimous agreement. Listen to Marcus Aurelius, a great Roman Empire, said, "A man's life is what his thoughts make of it." Benjamin Disraeli said this, "Everything comes if a man will only wait." I brought myself by long meditation to the conviction that a human being with a settled purpose must accomplishment, and nothing can resist a will that the will stake its even existence for its fulfillment. Ralph Waldo Emerson said this, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." William James said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that human beings can alter their lives by altering their attitudes of mind." And he also said, "We only need in cold blood act as if the thing in question were real, and it will become infallibly real by growing into such a connection in our life that it will become real. It will become so knit with habit and emotion that our interest in it will be those which are characterized as belief." He also said, "If you only care enough for the result, you will almost certainly attain it. If you wish to be rich, you will be rich. If you wish to be learned, you will be learned. If you wish to be good, you will be good. Only you must then really wish these things, and wish them exclusively, and not wish at the same time 100 other incomparable things just as strongly. In the Bible, you will read in Mark 9:23, if thou can believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. My old friend Dr. Norman Vincent Peale said it like this: this is one of the greatest laws in the universe. Fervently do I wish I had discovered it as a very young man. It dawned upon me much later in life, and I found it to be the greatest discovery, if not my greatest discovery, outside of my relationship to God. And the great law, briefly and simply stated, is that if you think in negative terms, you will get negative results. If you think in positive terms, you will achieve positive results. That is a simple fact that is at the basis of an astonishing law of prosperity and success. In 3 words: believe and succeed. William Shakespeare put it in this way: our doubts are traitors and make us lose good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. George Bernard Shaw said people are always blaming their circumstances for what they are. I don't believe in circumstances. The people who get on in this world are the people who get up, look for circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, make them. Well, it's pretty apparent, isn't it? And every person who discovered this for a while believed that he was the first one to work it out. We become what we think about. Now, it stands to reason that a person who is thinking about a concrete and worthwhile goal is going to reach it, because that's what he's thinking about. And we become what we think about. Conversely, the man who has no goal, who doesn't know where he's going, and whose thoughts must therefore be thoughts of confusion, anxiety, fear, and worry, becomes what he thinks about. His life becomes one of frustration, fear, anxiety, worry. If he thinks about nothing, he becomes nothing. Now, how does it work? Why do we become what we think about? Well, I'll tell you how it works as far as I know. Now, to do this, I want to tell you about a situation that parallels the human mind. Suppose a farmer has some land. It's good fertile land, and now the land gives the farmer a choice. He may plant in the land whatever he chooses. The land doesn't care. It's up to the farmer to make the decision. Now remember, we are comparing the human mind with the land, because the mind, like land, doesn't care what you plant in it. It will return what you plant, but it doesn't care what you plant. Now let's say that the farmer has 2 seeds in his hand. One is a seed of corn, the other nightshade, a deadly poison. He digs 2 little holes in the earth and he plants both seeds. One corn, the other nightshade. He covers up the holes, waters, and cares for the land. And what will happen? Invariably, the land will return what is planted. As it is written in the Bible, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Remember, the land doesn't care. It will return poison in just as much wonderful abundance as it will corn. So up comes the 2 plants, one corn, one poison. Now, the human mind is far more fertile, far more incredible and mysterious than the land, but it works the same way. It doesn't care what we plant. Success, failure, a concrete worthwhile goal, or confusion, misunderstanding, fear, anxiety, and so on. But what we plant in it will return to us. You see, the human mind is the last great unexplored continent on earth. It contains riches beyond our wildest dreams. It will return anything we want to plant. Now you might say, well, if that's true, why don't more people use their minds more? Well, I think we figured out an answer to that one too. Our mind comes as standard equipment at birth. It's free. And things that are given to us for nothing, we place little value on. Things we pay money for, we value. The paradox is that exactly the reverse is true. Everything that's really worthwhile in life came to us free. Our mind, our soul, our body, our hopes, our dreams, our ambitions, our intelligence, our love of family and children, friends and country, all these priceless possessions are free. The things that cost us money are actually very cheap and can be replaced at any time. A good man can be completely wiped out and make another fortune. He can do that several times. Even if our home burns down, we can rebuild it. But the things we got for nothing, we can never replace. The human mind isn't used merely because we take it for granted. Familiarity breeds contempt. It can do any kind of job we assign to it, but generally speaking, we use it for little jobs instead of big important ones. Universities have proved that most of us are operating on about 10% or less of our ability. Decide now. What is it that you want? Plant your goal in your mind. It's the most important decision you'll ever make in your entire life. What is it that you want? Do you want to be an outstanding salesman? Do you want to excel at a particular job? Do you want to go places in your company, in your community? All you've got to do is plant that seed in your mind. Care for it. Work steadily towards your goal. It will become a reality. It not only will, there's no way it cannot. You see, that's the law. Like the law of Sir Isaac Newton, the laws of gravity. If you get on top of a building and jump off, you'll always go down. You'll never go up. It's the same with all the other laws of nature. They always work. They are inflexible. Think about your goal in a relaxed, positive way. Picture yourself in your mind's eyes already having achieved the goal. See yourself doing the things you will be doing once you've reached your goal. Ours has been called the phenobarbital age, the age of ulcers and nervous breakdowns, at a time when medical research has raised us to a new plateau of good health and longevity. Far too many of us worry ourselves into an early grave, trying to cope with things in our own little personal ways without learning a few great laws that will take care of everything for us. These things we bring on ourselves through our habitual way of thinking. Every one of us is the sum total of his own thoughts. He is where he is because that is exactly where he wants to be, whether he will admit it or not. Each of us must live off the fruit of his own thoughts in the future, because what you think today and tomorrow, next month and next year will mold your life and determine your future. You are guided by your mind. I remember one time I was driving through Arizona and I saw one of those giant earth-moving machines roaring along the road at about 35 miles an hour. And what looked like 30 tons of dirt in it. A tremendous, incredible machine. And there was a little man perched way on top with the wheel in his hand, guiding it along. As I drove along, I was struck by the similarity of that machine to the human mind. Just suppose you are sitting at the controls of such a vast source of energy. Are you going to sit back and fold your arms and let it run into a ditch? Or are you going to keep both hands firmly on the wheel and control and direct the power to a specific worthwhile purpose? It's up to you. You're in the driver's seat. You see, the very law that gives us success is a two-edged sword. We must control our thinking. The same rule that can lead a man to a life of success, wealth, happiness, and all the things he's ever dreamed of for himself and his family, that very same law can lead him into the gutter. It's all in how we use it, for good or for bad. This is the strangest secret in the world. Now, why do I say it's strange and why do I call it a secret? Actually, it isn't a secret at all. It was first promulgated by some of the earliest wise men, and it appears again and again throughout the Bible. But very few people have learned it and understand it. That's why it's strange. And why, for some equally strange reason, it virtually remains a secret. I believe that you could go out and walk down the main street of your town and ask one man after another what the secret of success is, and you'd probably run into one man in a month who could tell you. Now, this information is enormously valuable to us. If we really understand it and apply it, it's valuable to us not only for our own lives, but for the lives of those around us, our family, employees, associates, and friends. Life should be an exciting adventure. It should never be a bore. A man should live fully, be alive. He should be glad to get out of the bed in the morning. He should be doing a job he likes to do because he does it well. One time I heard Grove Patterson make a speech, the editor-in-chief of the Toledo Daily Blade. As he concluded his speech, he said something that I've never forgotten. He said something like this: "My years in the newspaper business have convinced me of several things, among them that people are basically good and that we came from someplace and we are going someplace. So we should make our time here an exciting adventure. The architect of the universe did not build a stairway to nowhere. And the greatest teacher of all, the carpenter from the plains of Galilee, gave us a secret time and time again. As ye believe, so shall it be done unto you." This is part 1 of The Greatest Secret. Stay tuned for video 2, which will map out the 30-day action ideas for putting the strangest secret to work for you.
Everybody going through a little something, something. Sing a little something.